In depth, investigative. This is News 10 NBC at 6.
We've been following breaking news all afternoon. Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren says she is guilty of violating campaign finance rules. The mayor accepted a plea deal ahead of her trial, which was scheduled to start today.
She's resigning before her term ends, but is still able to keep her law license and pension. Obviously, this is big news for Rochesterians. We are following it with a live team coverage.
Chief Investigative Reporter Berkeley Breen has been in court all day. We start with him. Good evening, Burke.
Hey, this was the deal. Plead guilty, agree to resign, and all of the felonies go away. In court, the mayor was asked by the judge if she thinks this is in her best interest. Her answer was yes. And then she went on to say it's in her daughter's best interest as well. The mayor and her two co-defendants pled guilty to a misdemeanor campaign finance charge. That goes back to how she and her team handled campaign donations in her race for mayor in 2017. By pleading guilty, the mayor also took care of the gun and endangerment charges she faced after her home was raided back in May. In exchange for that, the mayor agreed to resign by December 1st.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that because there was give and take by both sides here, so I wouldn't say it was certainly wasn't the mayor that was the obstacle in our plea negotiation.
We received a call from the DA's office last week with the potential of a resolution to a misdemeanor, and we've just been hammering it out for the last actually a few hours here today.
When did this whole negotiating thing start?
I would say last night, really in earnest and substantive. We started to have a dialogue about possible resolutions and kind of broke off last night but resumed this morning.
And this morning, 9:30, that's when court was supposed to happen. I started to think something was up around 11 when the court was still locked. And by 2:30, we had guilty pleas from the mayor and her two co-defendants. So by doing this, the campaign finance felonies and charges are done. The gun charges are done. The child endangerment charge is done. And the mayor has to submit a resignation by December 1st. We're live at the Hall of Justice, Berkeley Breen, News 10 NBC.
Berkeley, thank you. Now, it's worth noting that Deputy Mayor James Smith will assume the role of mayor upon Warren's resignation come December 1st. But whether the mayor took the plea deal today or not, her term is over at the end of the year.
So why did the district attorney's office insist on her resignation? News 10 NBC investigative reporter Jennifer Lukey was in the courtroom today, too, and spoke with the prosecutors. Jen?
Yeah, Brett, Deanna, if the mayor would have gone to trial and if the mayor would have been convicted on the two felony counts she was facing when it came to this campaign finance case, the maximum she could have received is 1 1/3 to 3 years in prison if she was convicted, remember. But she instead wanted to consider this plea deal. And so both of the prosecutors and the defense attorneys tell me that they were prepared at the start of the morning for a trial. That's how they came into the day. But the DA's office at the last minute put this plea on the table under the stipulation that all three of them had to agree or the trial against all three defendants would move forward. Our sources tell us the plea deal originally required the immediate resignation of the mayor, but they eventually this afternoon settled on December 1st.
There were a lot of negotiations throughout the day, and we came up with the final determination December 1st, and that's all I'm going to really say about that.
A lot of people might look at this and say it's a slap on the wrist. She got a conditional discharge, and she got forced to resign 1 month early.
The offer from the people was not a conditional discharge. We left it open to the court and the court's discretion. A misdemeanor is one thing versus a felony is another thing, but we did leave it up to that court's discretion for an open pre-sentence investigation. The mayor was willing to, all three defendants were willing to take responsibility today. Obviously, the mayor will no longer be mayor on January 1st, one way or another, prior to today. It was time to, I think it's time for our community and the city to put this past us, and the mayor was willing, and their co-defendants were willing to take responsibility, and it did so today. We found it to be an equitable resolution.
So again, today's proceedings take care of all of the current criminal charges against Mayor Lovely Warren. I'm told by the ADA that there still is an active CPS investigation into the mayor and her husband. because allegedly one of those charges, remember, was that there was an illegal handgun, an unregistered handgun inside the home they share with their daughter. There was ammunition in that home as well at the time. So the CPS investigation is ongoing. I'm also told the State Board of Elections and its grievance committee is still investigating the campaign finance charges as well. Live at the Hall of Justice tonight, Jennifer Lukey, News 10 NBC.
Jennifer, thank you. At 5 p.m., you heard from presumptive mayor-elect Malik Evans and his reaction to the mayor's plea.
That's right. New at 6, Evans, along with many in city government, still have to work with this administration. Nikki Rudd has that part of the story.
Well, Deanna and Brett, Malik Evans says he is focused on his transition to becoming mayor here in Rochester in January. But at this point, he is still a Rochester City Council member. He says today's developments will not impact his work at City Hall. He, along with other council members, will continue to work with the Warren administration. Evans says the people of Rochester have to become the main focus, not what happened in court today.
What I'm happy to do is to continue to work with the residents in the city of Rochester and everyone that wants to work to make our city strong. And I think that is what we all have to do together. I think all of us in this room and those that are not in this room have an obligation to work to ensure that we build a strong city.
We have reaction from Rochester City Council President Loretta Scott and other council members on our website, WHEC.com. Reporting live from City Hall, Nikki Rudd, News 10 NBC.
Thank you, Nikki. We'll continue to follow this breaking story for you. At 11, we're aiming to hear from more from City Council members and Rochester officials, including former Mayor Bill Johnson. You can always check our website, too, as Nikki said. That's WHEC.com. We all have the statements we've gathered so far, and we will have the statements that we've gathered so far and much more there for you.
And still ahead on News 10 NBC, the mayor was not the only one in court today.
The man accused of sexually abusing a dementia patient against her will is not commenting on the charges against him. What's next as the Attorney General's office continues its investigation?
And did you notice anything different when you were on Facebook or Instagram today? A social media outage could last much longer than first anticipated. Stacey.
And the rain that we had around today kept our temperatures locked into the 60s. Now, once this rain goes away, there are some indications that our temperatures may soar. Find out when and just how high coming up.
In-depth, investigative. You're watching News 10 NBC at 6 with Brett Davidson, Deanna Dewberry, Jackson Roberts with sports, and meteorologist Stacey Pengen with your First Alert forecast.
Man was injured in a shooting in Rochester today. Police say it happened on Boardman Street near Monroe Avenue just before noon. 28-year-old man was shot. He is expected to survive. No arrests have been made.
Police are investigating a bank robbery in Irondequoit. It happened earlier today at the ESL Bank on East Ridge Road near Hudson Avenue. Police say the man you see right here on your screen passed a note demanding money. He took off before officers arrived. Anyone with information on that bank robbery is asked to call 911.
Last week, we broke the story about a Shore Winds nursing home employee who is charged with 2 counts of sexually abusing and endangering the welfare of an incompetent person who was a resident of the home. Today, Katka Pradhan appeared in court. The former custodian was immediately suspended without pay and barred from the facility last week. Prosecutors say they have no reason to believe Pradhan has done this at any other nursing home.
It's self-evidently a disturbing set of allegations, but it's one in which we look forward to doing the best job we can to bring justice to this victim and to anybody similarly situated, so that there is a recognition that this behavior is criminal for a reason.
Pradhan was released from custody after posting a $10,000 cash bail, which means no preliminary hearing was held. The Attorney General's office is now in the process of obtaining all the police paperwork, reports, and video footage of body-worn camera from responding officers.
All this week on News 10 NBC, we're helping you keep track of your health and your wellness. And we begin with an issue you've probably heard about this month, breast cancer. Tonight, I'm talking about the efforts to get more care for people in the later stages of this disease. Plus, a look at a heartfelt push from one local lawmaker to get the care paid for when breast cancer spreads. That's coming up at 7:30 right here on News 10 NBC.
What was once old is now new again.
A former eyesore in Irondequoit is now a potential asset to the community. We'll take you to the unveiling of what aims to be more than just a community center. That's next. Recapping that breaking news from earlier in the show, Rochester Mayor Lovely Warren has pleaded guilty in her campaign finance trial the day it officially started. This is part of a plea deal down to a misdemeanor, which means Warren will have to resign before her term ends, but is allowed to keep her law license and pension. This will also satisfy the gun and child endangerment charges against her that stem from the state police raid of her house back in May.
Stay with News 10 NBC as we work to gather more reaction from city council members and Rochester officials. You can always check our website too. That's WHEC.com.
And this just in, Facebook is back online. This after the social media giant, as well as Instagram and WhatsApp, were without service for users all across the world. The three social media giants went out of service shortly after 11:30 this morning, our time. One Facebook employee said it appeared to be a domain name system problem, the so-called phone book of the internet the computers use to look up individual websites. He says there's no reason to suspect anything malicious at this time. CNBC is reporting this is Facebook's worst outage since 2008.
The former site of the Irondequoit Mall is alive again. After a $9 million investment, the town today officially opened Skyview on the Ridge. It's a 42,000 square foot community center. Skyview will offer exercise classes, host youth sporting events, and places for seniors to gather. Like its predecessor, we asked if the new space may contain retail stores in the future.
It's self-evidently a disturbing set of allegations, but it's one in which we look forward to doing the best job we can to bring justice to the...
And that is that's the wrong interview there, but we can tell you that an open house for the public begins on Tuesday and it runs until Sunday.
Well, New York's governor is getting some big support to make her role more permanent. Today, New York State Democratic Party Chair Jay Jacobs announced his endorsement for Kathy Hochul. Hochul announced her plans to run for a full term in 2022, shortly after taking over when Andrew Cuomo resigned. Jacobs is also endorsing Letitia James for re-election as state attorney general. Her name has been thrown out as a possible challenger for Hochul for the governor's seat, but she has not made any formal announcement as of yet.
The state's newly appointed Cannabis Control Board will hold its first public meeting. The board is responsible for laying out the framework for marijuana regulations in the state. It will also oversee licensing for cannabis businesses. The meeting will be held virtually at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. We have the link if you want to watch it. You'll find it in the story on WHEC.com. We have a concert announcement for you. New Kids on the Block will be in Buffalo next summer. That's part of their mixtape tour with Salt and Peppa, Rick Astley, and En Vogue. Tickets go on sale Friday. The show is scheduled for July 17th at the KeyBank Center, and I can tell that Stacy's very excited about it. In fact, she just got through telling us she loves Rick Astley.
I can't help it. I love Rick Astley. I never want to let you down. I don't.
I love that it's mixtape tour.
You're right, exactly. It's so 80s, right?
Kind of takes you back just a little bit. Letting you down for sure on this Monday with a radar that looks like this. It is an ugly Monday. The only good thing is that the heaviest rain right now is not falling across the city of Rochester for anyone who's trying to get home from work. However, we are seeing some locally heavier rain down 390 Groveland towards Dansville. This has been a little thunderstorm, although we're not seeing much lightning here over the last few scans. But Dansville certainly seeing some of that heavy rain, and that is tracking off to the east. So putting a track on this. Wayland 627 for you, Cohocton 640, Naples 651, Prattsburgh 704, and Jerusalem 723. So notice how the at least heaviest part of this little thunderstorm here is kind of shifting east and southeast. So the majority of the Finger Lakes won't get in on the heaviest rain, but it is raining. And it is raining right now across Rochester, Irondequoit, Webster, Perrington as well. Bottom line, grab the umbrella if you are heading out this evening. 63 degrees, our current temperature. Dew point almost matches that. So the atmosphere is basically saturated right now. As a result, this is what it looks like. And as a result of that, we may see some fog developing overnight tonight, and it could be Some locally dense fog, especially south down into the deeper valleys here. Visibility may be reduced to a quarter, maybe a half mile for a few hours early tomorrow morning. So if you're on the roads early, keep that in mind. As far as rain goes, we're going to slowly start to taper it off. Heaviest, as I mentioned, down into the Finger Lakes and the southern tier over the next few hours. A few stray showers for your Tuesday, so a drier day, but still a whole lot of clouds and still on the cooler side. Temperatures in the lower half of the 60s. Wednesday, I should say, a stray shower, but mainly dry, and because of that, we're warmer. Temperatures back into the 70s. We'll keep it there Thursday and Friday. A few more showers possible on Saturday, but look at this little warm up, maybe a hint of summer into early next week. Brett.
Very good, Stacey. Thank you. At 11, we're taking a look at breakthrough COVID cases. Do the state numbers match up to what we're actually seeing in hospitals? Nikki Rudd got a hold of some numbers. You don't want to miss her fact check coming up at 11.
One Bills wide receiver took to Twitter to express his disappointment with a few fans.
Jackson Roberts has that. Coming up next in sports.
Now, News 10 NBC Sports with Jackson Roberts.
The Bills are not just winners of their last 3 in a row, they're winners of these last few games in dominating fashion. And as a result, they lead the league in a key area. Buffalo has a point differential of plus 90. That's 45 more than the next highest in line, the Arizona Cardinals. That makes sense when you're 134 scored or tied with Kansas City for the second most behind the Cardinals, and your 44 allowed are the fewest in the league. It's also the second fewest the Bills have allowed through the first 4 games of the season in almost 40 years. And it all goes back to one element that Sean McDermott puts an emphasis on.
Consistency is something that is important for our success down the road, and consistency usually is bred by consistent preparation. So that's what I'm looking for this week, is for us to get back and prepare and put the work in.
Here's a look at those top 6 teams. The difference between the points scored and allowed, and Buffalo is, quite frankly, running away with it so far. We mentioned they're tied with the Chiefs for total points scored. Those two are also averaging 33.5 points per game, and they square off this Sunday. You can see that game right here on News 10 NBC. Cole Beasley took to Twitter to call out some fans at Highmark Stadium for what he said were boos in yesterday's game. The wide receiver claims that those were directed at him for being unvaccinated against COVID-19. Then he got into a little Twitter spat with Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. When head coach Sean McDermott was asked about Beasley's comments, he only said, quote, "I love our fan support," end quote. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jackson, thanks. And Stacey, thanks to you. I now have Rick Astley running through my head.
You are welcome is all I have to say. Not welcome for this. It's an ugly evening. Rain around, umbrellas this evening.
All right. Thank you for making News 10 NBC your choice for news.
NBC Nightly News is coming up next. Good night.
Good night.